The Victorian era spanned from 1837 to 1901 under Queen Victoria. It was a time of massive change worldwide, and it marked the height of the British Empire, influencing global politics, culture, as well as economy. Innovations in technology and industry during this period accelerated the Industrial Revolution, changing how people lived and worked. Social reforms improved living conditions and expanded rights for many, and this era's significance lies in its contribution to modern society's foundations, from technological advancements to shifts in social norms. Today we're going to be diving into a mod for EU4 that transports the player to 1836 for the starting date, which for any of you Victoria fans, you're going to recognize that date. This mod overhauls the entire map and diplomatic situation, bringing us into the Victorian age. Lots of fun stuff to come, and I think that you are going to enjoy it. If you do, make sure you leave a like on the video, and don't forget to subscribe and ding the bell if you haven't already, so you don't miss out on future videos. Now, of course, we have Victoria and all that stuff, and, you know, say what you want about those games. The time period is very, very interesting. Interesting enough for somebody to make a mod for it, for EU4, which is, you know, my personal favorite game. So we're going to take a look at that. We've got Big Daddy Ching over here, and I don't believe they've got the mandate, so we're going to have to keep an eye on them. I'm sure they will be strong. The New World is awash with a bunch of independent nations, with Simón Bolívar, La Libertador, over here in Colombia. We've got a dictatorship in Venezuela, which is poignant. We also have Mexico with the United States manifesting some destiny, doing a little bit of snaking here to cut off the Canadians, as well as British Alaska, which I believe this is called like British Columbia in this time period. Alaska still belongs to the Ruskies. And it appears that Hawaii is still an independent nation that has not been fully, you know, legitimately annexed by the United States of America. We do have Australia, as well as Australia. We do have some extra colonial stuff that you wouldn't see in vanilla, like the Dutch East India Company. And I believe that the East India Company was put into the game in domination, I believe. So that's pretty cool. A lot of the times, if you go to these later bookmarks, Great Britain has like 50 vassals over here in India. That's not the case. Now they just have the East India Company. So it's hopefully going to be a little more balanced. The Ottomans are a nation in decline, with an independent Egypt as well as an independent Greece over in their Balkan territories. We have Spain, Portugal, with a little bit of a French colonization over here of the North African coast. And of course, a few very cool formables with a giant Austria, as well as Prussia, with land over here split by Hanover, who was a personal union under Great Britain. Netherlands, we have a Belgium on our hands, which is very weird because as far as I know, this nation does not exist. We've got a Bavaria, and we've got a couple of other German minors, which may or may not be incorporated into a German state, if you will. And I do believe I've seen this one before. And I do believe that some Brits might be getting some spears and some arrows in their knees. Regardless, this looks pretty cool, and I'm very excited to give it a look. If you agree, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel, because you're missing out on a ton of content if you are not subscribed. If you want early access to videos like this, as well as special roles and chats in the Discord, check out the join button below the video to become one of the homies, or support me on Patreon. Link is in the description. Well, lads, you know how we do this. We're going to turn it on up to speed 5 and unpause. Are you ready to dive into the most comprehensive vehicle combat experience ever created? War Thunder awaits, bringing an unmatched level of depth and realism to PC and consoles. And the best part, it is absolutely free to play. With War Thunder, you take control of over 2,500 tanks, planes, helicopters, and ships across 10 major nations. From the armored cars and biplanes of the Roaring Twenties to the cutting-edge fighter jets and main battle tanks of today, immerse yourself in the evolution of combat through the ages. Experience combat like never before with War Thunder's incredibly detailed vehicles, realistic graphics, and authentic sound effects that place you right in the middle of the action. The game's sophisticated vehicle damage models bring each battle to life. Watch in awe as the X-ray view reveals the impact of your shots, showing exactly how and why vehicles are taken out of the fight. But War Thunder isn't just about the solo experience. Join a global community of over 70 million players and engage in epic PvP battles. Whether you're a fan of the high-speed arcade mode, the authentic realistic mode, or the ultra-challenging simulator mode, there is something there for every type of player. Customize your war machines in an extensive array of camouflages, historical markings, and even community-created decorations. And if you can believe it, you don't even need extra hardware to play. You can drive tanks and fly aircraft using just your mouse and keyboard or a controller, thanks to their heavily optimized game engine, which ensures a smooth experience even on lower-end potato machines. Now, play War Thunder for free on PC, PlayStation, or Xbox and get a massive bonus pack for a limited time only. New and returning players who haven't played in at least 6 months will receive multiple premium vehicles, the exclusive vehicle decorator, the Eagle of Valor, 100,000 Silver Lions, and 7 days of premium access. Use my link in the pinned comment or the video description to sign up and claim your bonus pack across all platforms. This offer won't last forever, so jump in the action today and see why War Thunder is the ultimate game for fans of military history. Don't forget that this incredible offer is only available for a limited time. War Thunder is waiting for you to take the helm of history's most powerful war machines. Sign up using that link and start your journey with a huge bonus pack. Thank you so much to War Thunder for sponsoring today's video, and I will see you on the battlefield. Well, before we get too far into it, we're going to take a look at the great powers list here with Great Britain over 3,000 development here in 1836, the year of our Lord. The Ruskies in the second place with over 2,000, and then you can see Austria and France with about under 1,500 apiece. Qing 4,200 development, but 3 institutions behind. The United States with 1,100, Prussia with over 1,000, and then the sick man of Europe, if you will, the Ottomans with 761 total development. Oh my gosh, my apologies. I almost forgot that we need to point out the beautiful toothpaste color over here. Sardinia Piedmont, probably my favorite color in the game for a nation. I'm a big fan. And I stand corrected, we do have the mandate of China over here for the Qing. Interesting, they're very strong right now with 100% mandate, but definitely could be a liability if they do not keep this mandate high. Oh, just a few short years in and we've got a big war going on over here in the North American continent. It's 1812 all over again, except we don't have any Papa Great Britain to look out for the Canadians this time around, and it is not looking good for the Newfoundlanders, or whatever, the Canadians I'll call them, with a very large portion of their development over here, because if you don't know, basically like everybody from Canada lives in like this general vicinity with like 15 people living over here. Cool people, don't get me wrong, but nobody lives out there compared to over here. And yeah, a lot of the development is also over here and it's occupied. And I'm not sure if this was here before, but we have the Grand Republic of Texas, an independent nation here right next to a big Mexico and a big United States. If you don't know, United States annexed Texas after it broke away from Mexico just a few short years later. So pretty cool to see. Texas is also a nice color. Anything that's got red in EU4 is cool with me. Well, if you're in the know, you know that Belgium was basically created as a buffer state between the Prussians and the French. We have revolutionary France, who now borders Prussia in more places than one, because Belgium got split up between them and the Netherlands, with the Netherlands taking some provinces over here. Curious. And while we're here, we might as well take a look at the French Revolutionary War against Austrian, apparently. And yeah, the numbers are looking good for the French, but we'll see how things go. They definitely could go either way, in my opinion. There's a lot of boys over here in Alsace. So yeah, we'll see how things go with that. Normally the revolution is actually quite strong. Revolutionary Republic, if you don't know, gives you some pretty solid bonuses like morale, tolerance, and all of that stuff. But you know, at the same time, people hate you if you're the center of revolution. So it might be a bad thing for them. And I do believe that this is new. Looks like the Ottomans took quite a bit of land over here from Persia and set up their eyalet. And meanwhile over here, Afghanistan is getting eaten by the Qing. So we'll see how things go with this, but it looks like this might be a little bit of a hotbed for territorial expansion. But if you don't know, Afghanistan is indeed the graveyard of empires, so might happen. And yeah, it doesn't look like the offensive war for the French is doing too well for them. Paris is occupied, as is a lot of land over here with a lot of development. So France is probably going to be hurting. If they do win the war, they're going to be hurting financially quite badly, I think. And I might have missed it, but we don't have a Victoria. We have Charles with his regent of Mary. So I'm not sure if that's actually scripted or not, but yeah, there is no Victoria, I guess. RIP. Though maybe you could make an argument that that's a good thing, because I'm pretty sure Wilhelm and Nicholas were her nephews. So maybe we could just avoid World War I altogether. Be a better world without it, right? And a few years later, Texas is not looking good. 2 provinces with the Mexicans taking a bit of land. The U.S. is doing a bit of colonization and a little bit of, you know, settlement and assimilation of the natives, shall we say. They're also doing some assimilation and colonization over here, taking a ton of land in Canada, actually, and establishing the prairies for the United States. So pretty cool. And this war has been going on for 5 years, and it appears that the French have actually turned it around, with almost 500,000 Austrians falling to only 300,000 French. Now, the French have manpower, Austrians do not. So it looks like the French may actually come out on top, which is surprising. I'll be honest, I did not expect that. Meanwhile, the Prussians are doing Prussian things, I suppose. And I have literally no idea what's going on over here, but it looks like America chose violence, with British Alaska forming and then instantly getting decked on, and then dominated by the United States with some pretty borders, if I do say so myself. And it looks like the Mexicans are taking over the land over here in whatever, Oregon, I guess this would be. So yeah, doesn't look like the colonial nations are doing well. But Prussia decided that Holstein was Prussia, as was Schleswig, as well as the large portion of Jutland. So they just kept on going, and more power to them. And the Qing might be in trouble. They only have 11 mandate right now. I think they passed some reforms, and they're definitely in a weak spot. If the Russians wanted to go in on them, they would destroy them, because if you don't know, devastation brings down the mandate, and there's a lot of land up here that can get devastated. And I should have mentioned this before, but all of the idea groups are filled out, and everybody gets free colonists, or at least people who maybe are interested in colonizing. France, Great Britain, Spain, they all have colonists built into their national ideas now. But yeah, they all have idea groups filled out. And Prussia has some pretty terrifying military ideas. They also have their militarization mechanic. So if they want to use that, I think that it'll work well for them. And my heart weeps for the poor Swiss. They have been annexed, split between the Austrians and the Sardinians. So rip. Monroe Doctrine looking a little different this time around. The U.S. has taken up half of Cuba, and they are at war with the British colonial nation over here. Looks like they are going to take over the Bahamas, and if I had to guess, they're going to take over more than just that. And speaking of taking over, Brazil has taken a little bit of land over here from Argentina. So there you go. Here we have the Russians pushing quite a bit down over here, at war with Afghanistan, about 100 years ahead of time, or 150 or so, and looking pretty good so far, but we'll see how things go with that. And meanwhile, the Austrians at war on two fronts between Bavaria and the Ottomans, so trying to unite the South Germans, if I had to guess, and they've got them full occupied, so I don't imagine they're going to have that much trouble with it. But they did end up piecing out with the French, and I don't think they really did much. I think it was a white peace, but they don't have much manpower. The Ottomans are pretty weak, all things considered. They're definitely not the vanilla Ottomans as far as their strength goes. But yeah, time will tell, but I think Austria's got this one in the bag as well. And yeah, as I said, the Qing didn't end up doing too much. They lost their mandate, or at least a large chunk of it. The Russians went in and took over a ton of land, of course, leaving one province over here for those perfect borders. Qing was actually involved in a war with Australia, who had declared independence, but I don't think it's going to win, because the French were on the side of them as well. So it's basically French versus Great Britain. That's kind of the war going on right now. I imagine the French are going to win, especially considering the fact that, you know, Britain is just going to land men and have them get killed, but they also don't have naval dominance. So I think Australia is probably going to stay subject at the end of that. And though the Italians are not united, they do have Algeria as well as Tunisia united, which there you go. We got a colonial two Sicilies, if you want to consider that colonial, which I think it's a fair assessment. Meanwhile, it's about that time. We've got a little bit of a march to Mexico City going on. So yeah, what happened last time was not good for Mexico. Wasn't good for Mexico. Yo, okay. So every single province that the Qing owns is 100 devastation. Every single province. If you don't know, when you go bankrupt, every province that you own gains 10 devastation. And it looks like after the war with Russia, as well as a war down here in the Tonggu Empire, the Qing went bankrupt and then spiraled. And now they can only have up to 3 loans, and they're running a deficit of like 300 ducats per month. So if you do some quick math, they're going bankrupt like basically every year. And this land is going to be useless for literally like 50 years. Nobody will be able to do anything with it, even if they do take it. Speaking of useless lands, it does look like some land broke free. We have Ardabil popping out of the Eyalet of Persia, and it looks like they're looking to take some land, maybe do a little bit of conquest over here in Babylonia. And for some reason, they even have land up here occupied in the Balkans. It does look like they made some friends in high places, so good on them. And in that Mexican-American War, the U.S. went all the way up to the Rio Grande, taking land. I think this is the Rio Grande, like right here, as well as crossing over it and taking some land in Mexico. That's all they took. They didn't really take as much as they probably could have. But meanwhile, they are also annexing British Alaska, with British Alaska on Haida, and then like in Utah, I guess. So there you go. Now the revolution is no longer in France. However, it has reached Prussia, who is massive and terrifying. It's been about 50 years, I think, since we last checked, and it is now 1911. Blessed be John Browning in the 1911 handgun. But either way, Austria doing incredibly good, annexing the Pope and a bunch of land from Two Sicilies, who somehow has land up here from Sardinia, and then Corsica is free. Sicily has snaked the Ottomans, who are not looking good at all, with Serbia getting a province over here, Bulgaria free, and yeah, it's just a huge mess. We also have Iraq and Syria over here, so lots of land changes over here, with Russia looking pretty dang scary, and Qing with close to Ming borders in 1444. Japan is united. They were united a while ago. We've got British Indochina, so we got a bit of colonization going on over here, with the East India Company exploding in size, looking really good. The United States manifesting that dang destiny with this province over here and a couple other over here, probably about to get annexed if I had to guess. Alaska is like a 2-province minor over here in the Aleutian Isles, and Mexico is getting they're getting pushed out of Mexico, so to speak. There's definitely a nice kind of zone of control over here that the Americans have. They've even pushed down into Venezuela, and Mexico has pushed down into Colombia. South America, though, however, is very much a Brazilian nation. It does look like the French and the Spanish got over into sub-Saharan Africa, but the Swedes have joined as well as the Prussians. So it's not just a monopoly on colonization, which is really cool to see. So 80 years in, the East India Company, who is independent, is the #1 great power of the world, followed by Russia, and then the United States, and then Prussia, with Austria, Great Britain, Qing in the 7th spot, despite getting absolutely dumpstered over and over and over again, because there's just so much development in China, and they have embraced institutions. And France, with 1800 development, is in the 8th spot, with an economic hegemon fully stacked up for the East India Company. So the East India Company is an economic hegemon, #1 great power of the world. Well, it's 1981. Austria is looking huge, and revolutionary Germany is united, a little late, but they are here. They didn't move much up north, but they definitely pushed over into France. France is absolutely gutted, though so is Spain, with revolutionary Catalonia being independent. I won't say anything about that. There's also a massive world war going on right now, and it is literally the world against Great Britain and Russia. It's not scripted or anything like that. It's literally just a war for, I think, colonial stuff. But either way, it is it's pretty big. It's pretty big. And it's also really funny to see Great Britain against the East India Company, who is still the #1 great power after like 100 years. Very impressive. Brazil is still the dominant nation here in South America, though American Colombia is here, and it doesn't look like it's going anywhere. We also have revolutionary Paraguay down here, which is very funny. And Mexico is literally like 5 provinces sprinkled throughout. And I thought that they would annex this last time we looked, and they didn't. So I don't really know why, but for some reason, America is just like letting them keep their stuff over here. Also, Sweden just like annexed Denmark. So I'm sure there's some Swedes in the comments who are happy to hear that. Two Sicilies has been exiled over here to North Africa, which is very funny. The Mamluks are here, of all people. A little bit of a renaissance for the Mamluks. And also all of this is just Russia. Russia's massive. Russia annexed most of Persia, pushing Persia into Arabia for the most part. And the Ottomans are just gone, completely gone, as is most of Egypt, migrating a bit down into like this area, the Horn of Africa. So it's very messy. Qing is just reeling, an absolute shell, a rump state of what they once were, with Japanese South China and Korea. I don't know, man. The Dutch East Indies is also like very much like smaller than they used to be, losing a ton of land over here to the East India Company. And then I believe Makassar took a bunch as well, which is like a native nation. So very funny. Australia is independent, with Australia and then Australian Oceania over here. So their capital is over on the main continent this time, which is funny. It's always funny when their continent is in New Zealand, because it calls this Australia and this like Australian Australia, which I always appreciate little things like that. That's a little quirk of EU4 that just is always good for a laugh. And in 1980s, Hawaii is still independent. Not only independent, but 4 separate nations. Very cool. We're going to go to the present day. So we got about 40 years left And the East India Company still out in first, like I said, with Russia right behind them. And then a bit of a drop off down to the revolutionary Germans, Austria, the United States in the 5th spot, Great Britain with under 4,000 development, a huge drop down to Brazil with 2,300, almost 2,400, and then an even bigger drop down to 1,700 for Japan. We do have the East India Company with economic hegemon. Looks like they lost it and then they're getting it back. We have military hegemon going to America, which, yep, checks out. It is definitely realistic. And here we are. It's actually 2040 because I forgot to pause my recording because I am a dumb, but the point still stands that things are looking pretty solid as far as blocks of nations go. We have revolutionary Germany. We have Austria looking very big and very scary. And then we have Russia. It's just like, this is crazy. This is very much peak Russia. They're all the way down. They have Korea. They have like half of Japan. They have the northern half, like a straight line across China, all the way over into Persia. They even got all the way up and took Cairo. So Russia had the big win, though I guess you can't be super surprised considering how strong they are in the start, but still, that's massive. Also, Persia's name being exclusively in Arabia, very nice touch. Spain was completely dismantled by Revolutionary Leon and the Catalonians. Super funny. It also looks like, I think they own these lands. I want to say they own these islands, and Two Sicilies took a ton of land. Now Spain has just a bunch of random provinces kind of sprinkled throughout Africa, which is just super funny. I'm a big fan of that as well. America was one single province away from perfect borders up here in the north. They didn't take this one province over here in like Belize, or it is actually Belize. So yeah, it is what it is. They also didn't take Bermuda, which is rightful American clay as well. Brazil also didn't really clean up the borders down here a whole lot, but you know, who knows? It's anybody's guess as to why they did not. Cool to see Germany getting in on the scramble for Africa. A little late, but they did get in on it, taking a ton of lands from, I think, France and Spain originally had this, and then the Swedish lands over here. But Portugal and Great Britain kept the south. Not really super surprised, but a revolutionary Congo is also very funny to see. I guess you could kind of draw a correlation between that and the, you know, what is that, the DRC or whatever. So there you go. You have Antamoro, and then you have Antamoran Horn of Africa. So there you go. That's a thing too. The East India Company didn't really change a whole lot. Honestly, I don't know why they didn't just like conquer a bunch of land, but they do border a very big British Indochina, which is pretty cool. And Qing is still here, but not really sure in what capacity. And it also looks like the British are about to kick the Japanese out of China. So not really doing too much there. So this is a thing as well. Okay. Their capital is in Palawan, dude. Oh, I love that so much. That's so good. This is really good. I like that. And it looks like the Dutch East India Company is like gone. I think this is direct holdings. No, this is the VOC. Okay, yeah. So there you go. The Dutch East India Company is like 3 provinces. So how the mighty have fallen. Also, it looks like Australia did a bit of colonization while we're here. And instead of going for, what is it, Bali over here, they ended up taking this Sulawesi. So there you go. Australians, you still got your vacation home away from home. Religious map is pretty interesting. It's very reformed in the British Isles, Protestant in the north, Catholic in the south, and then Orthodox in the rest. It's all Orthodox. South America is almost exclusively Catholic. North America almost exclusively Protestant, except for some lands that it looks like they may have trade companied, if I had to guess. Though I don't actually know if you can trade company New World provinces, even if you're a colonial nation. Not sure. Africa has been colonized a bit. Does look like the Congo is Catholic, reformed down in the south. Some Sunni stuff over here, and Shia Persia. Very cool to see. The rest is pretty messy, all things considered. Protestant down under, not really any surprise. Culturally, lots of American and English with lots of Castilian, Mexican, Platinian. We've got Castilian and Platinian filling out a lot here. A little bit of Brazilian, but mostly just Portuguese over here in Brazil. And then over here, Castilian is doing fine, though it looks like they actually pushed a little bit of the Andalusians out. Hopefully it was, you know, peaceful and all that. Looks like Austria pushed the Swiss into the French land, so that's pretty good to see. And I do believe that the Russians may have gotten rid of the Finns. I regret to inform you. Oh my gosh, and they definitely got rid of the Turks. This is all Russian, okay. Boys, they even pushed over here into China, converting all the Oirat hordes. Man, Russia did some culture conversion. Yeah, it got picked apart. Just look at this freaking culture group, and it's already overpowered in vanilla, but dang, they got gutted. And they still couldn't quite get past the East India Company finishing the great power, the #1 great power, with almost 10,000 friggin' development. Russia, very close behind them, only 500 behind them. Germany, right behind them, only it's about, you know, 2,500 dev behind them. And then about 1,000 dev below them. Austria, United States below them, just barely. Great Britain with under 5,000, Brazil with under 4,000, and then Portugal with a little over 2,000, finishing out the great powers. So a very strong great powers list, definitely. We finished Germany in economic hegemon, though they are not stacking it currently. We have the naval hegemon going to the East India Company. They must have lost economic hegemon, but naval seems to make a little bit more sense for them, in my opinion, so that's good. And then still undefeated back-to-back World War champions, the United States here, with a military hegemon of the world, role-playing real life. I live for these sorts of mods, and I really hope that you enjoyed it. If you did enjoy this video, make sure you leave a like and subscribe to the channel. If you have a suggestion for something you'd like to see, leave it in the comments down below. And if you made it to the end of this video, I want to let you know that I appreciate you, I appreciate your time, and I hope that you have an absolutely fantastic day. Again, major shout out to War Thunder for sponsoring today's video. Check out the link in the description or in the pinned comment and get that beautiful bonus pack.
Special thanks to Kaiser Dar of Acadia, Sheol, Gammas23, Ian Powell, Hannon Fodder, Josh Kopczynski, Agent Rhino, Blonde Damon, Isaiah, Rover, Bubba J, Saronska, Ricardo, Cobalt, Rex, Nathan Albright, and many more.